Okay, so good evening, everybody. I'm Alana Gustafson, the chair of the Maynard Finance Committee. And before we get started, let me make sure that all members are able to participate remotely and can hear me. So when I call your name, just say hello. Danielle?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes. Sorry.
Peter?
Yes.
Jillian?
Yes.
Okay, great. I believe Elliot's going to be absent this evening. Before we get started, also just a reminder, we are recording this meeting, so take care not to put anything up on the screen that you don't want captured by the recording, and also that all votes taken this evening will be via roll call. So, starting on our agenda tonight, really what we're just going to do is discuss some more of town meeting articles, do some voting, and look at some of the recommendations that you all have been good enough to send me and approve those, and just see, how much we can get done tonight. And then we have one more meeting on April 11th to finish it all up, hopefully, before our recommendations are due to town hall. So with that, let me share our comments document that we have been working from. All right, can everyone see that? Make it a little bigger. And if I do, as we go through these, the ones in bold are the ones that we haven't yet looked at as a whole committee. If I do need to show the article in question on the screen, we can do that as well. So I think let's just get started with draft control C, which is authorize revolving funds, chapter 44, section 53E. So this is a simple procedural article we talked about, and those are the comments to go with it from Ken, I think, yeah. Do we need any more discussion on draft control C before we do a vote for our recommendation? If
So
not,
we already voted on the recommendation, and I don't think we usually.
oh, I'm sorry. Let me.
No. Just to clarify,
Yeah.
I think we vote on the recommendation, and this is a comment that I wrote up in accordance. So we have
You're
not
right.
reviewed the comment.
We have not.
So we should go ahead and do that, but we don't need to vote if we've already voted the recommendation.
Right. I'm going to pull up on my other screen here where I did keep track of what we already voted on. Thank you. That's important. So this is just, so we voted to recommend this article, and this is just the comments that were submitted. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to these comments? Okay, great. And we don't need a formal vote on the comments, correct?
Correct. I mean, I suppose at some point, we should sort of have agreement. Peter, I don't recall us ever having voted on the comments, just on the recommendation itself.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely have not. And I hesitate to introduce that.
Yeah,
level,
no, we vote the
we could.
recommendation and then we share the comments, make sure everyone is in agreement that they're, yeah, okay, great. Okay.
You have a question from Linda, though.
Oh, sorry, Linda, go ahead.
I appreciate it. Linda Thayer, 14 Chandler Street. Were you taking citizens' comments or no?
If
I don't see it on the agenda, and I
not
did
formally
submit
in the agenda, but we usually do if they, are relevant and we have time. Which
I submitted it via email as per the
oh,
agenda.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It was got in there under the wire, so.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Okay. I got it here now.
Okay. Thank you.
I will be sure to forward that to the rest of the committee, Linda. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you don't read them into the meeting?
Not generally, I don't think, but certainly when we talk about it, we can bring it up and refer to it.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
And
Let me
just to
just-
note, Alana, you're still sharing as you do that
Oh!
email. Just so you know.
Thanks, Peter. So much going on, y'all. Sorry.
In case there's
Busy.
some secret message there.
Secret message in the FinCom email. Luckily, I'm only looking at the FinCom email. There's nothing good in there. Let me just send this off so you all can look at it when we discuss it later. And then we will get back to our comments. Okay. Thank you all for your patience. All right, back to our comments. All right, so I'm in charge of comments for, and we have not yet voted on draft control D. I do not have those ready yet. I think I'm going to hold that one for next time. And so let's move on to E, which we already voted on at our last meeting, but here are the comments for draft control E, the one pertaining to police details and the age change. Are there any discussion or suggestions for changes to these comments?
Yeah, so just to clarify, so the article, the intent of the article is to clarify language that will allow former police officers meeting certain service and training requirements to be appointed as special police officers. They're already doing that, but this just clarifies the language to make sure to allow that.
Was there
So-
anything in the sponsor comments that talked about basically reducing our reliance on other towns for details? I feel like the police chief mentioned something along those
So
lines.
I think the police chief mentioned it. He didn't he didn't say it. I mean, that's why I put in the thereby enabling regular police officers to focus on their customary duties. I don't know that it is necessarily going to I guess save money per se, but it obviously allows our regular officers then to be tapped into for their regular duties. That's how I recall it. Maybe somebody else remembers what Chief Noble was talking about, but it was mostly my recollection. It was mostly that he had otherwise would have to detail regular officers to that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from his explanation if we are already going outside, in which case it could cost us more, or if it's kind of a hypothetical we could if we were pressed for staff.
His sponsor comments speak more to being certain that this is clarified because there has been past litigation, I guess, in other towns that have their officers working past the age of 65, if not explicitly allowed. So it does not specifically speak to needing to go outside of our department. Well, these are retired. I mean, they are outside the department a little bit anyway. But I don't know that it's much different. If
Okay.
it's
I'm fine
like-
with the comments as is.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's consistent with the sponsor comments.
All right, any other comments on this one for draft control E? All right. The next one, draft control L. So this one, we did not yet vote on our recommendation.
And you might want to change the second to last word tow to town.
Yes.
I think it's missing the word be between not and burdensome too.
So before we vote our recommendation, would you like me to bring up the draft control on the screen, or do we all, have a good understanding of it?
I have a question about the wording of the article. Does it
Sure.
talk in the article? I don't remember the exact wording they used, but is it something like non-official quarterly reports, or do we have to
Why don't we just bring it up?
specify?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
find that for you.
Thanks.
Here we go. Okay. So. Preliminary quarterly financial reports. All department expenditure report of the general fund and an expenditure report of all enterprise funds. So I don't know if that answers your question, Jillian.
It says preliminary. So that to me.
Right.
So I don't know if we
So-
want to reflect that kind of thing in our comments or not.
Let's see what they say.
Just on that, this originated with the Charter Review Committee, and there was various back and forth, and some people talking about, oh well, you have to wait until they figure out all the encumbrances, and until they close the quarter, and exactly what does that mean, and so the idea was just that we were going to share the reports that they're already doing for FinCom. And in that case, I think it's fair to call them preliminary. It's just, what are the books like as of, when you're running the report? And we were focused, at least in the discussion at the Charter Committee, more with the idea we want them out periodically on a regular schedule. And if it means they're preliminary, that's fine. Nobody's gonna, fire the town accountant because it turns out, there wasn't something accrued to September that should have been.
I have like a
So that
naive
was-
question then. So like what's the difference than just directing people to the finance committee board docs and saying, here's preliminary quarterly reports. They're always posted on board docs.
I think there was, two things. One, I guess I'm not sure we've been perfect about posting everything. And then, this will build a library of these reports on the town accountant's webpage.
Okay.
And then there was also so that was the other piece that we wanted town staff to be responsible for generating and disseminating the report, not the finance committee. So rather than have it flow through the finance committee, we thought it was better that the charge should be to town staff to be the ones to, proactively put it out to the public.
All right. So just looking back at the comments then, quarterly, should we say preliminary? It's because that's what they called it.
I think
Sure.
so.
So, so I agree that preliminary ought to be in there, keeping in mind that we're, trying to help town meeting voters understand, what that is. how might we describe that?
Describe the reports, and
So if a town meeting
yeah.
voter is like, so what's a preliminary quarterly report?
right.
I think unaudited is a word that a lot of people are familiar with that typically is interpreted as not like fully reviewed and official.
Would you put that like in a parentheses after preliminary?
Or even just preliminary unaudited. You can do parentheses or just straight as it is.
Okay.
Technically, it's implied that they're unaudited if they're preliminary, but I think that helps people feel like it's less official.
Okay.
So what is missing from the preliminary report?
So I work in finance, and usually if I'm saying something's preliminary, it means that it hasn't gone through like multiple levels of review and been like fully closed out and audited and all of that. So it's in draft status essentially, but I probably wouldn't elaborate on it too much because you don't want to take away from the fact that this is pretty solid information that they're putting out. So we don't want to imply that it's not, worth relying upon, but at the same time, we don't want to assume that none of it's going to change when they do close out the year or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, all the reports we have are unaudited until they go through an audit. But, you used a term that, not closed out. I don't know if that might be, again, I guess for these specific reports, I can't remember as we were discussing it earlier, somebody said, they haven't done this and this, and I can't remember.
I think Peter was saying that something about the encumbrances.
Yeah, it would just, I mean, I think the idea is we didn't want the perfect to be the enemy of timely.
Correct, yeah.
Mm.
That's the idea, that we want timely, regular reporting. And then, what's missing would be anything from, I don't know, they're missing a bill from September if they're doing the September reports, or, I don't know, some accrual for something. Lori might be able to shed more light, but I don't know that we need to get into.
I would agree. I'm not
That
sure.
much
I wasn't trying to suggest that there necessarily was a problem. I was just opining here that perhaps preliminary was not fully, but as we're sitting here talking about it, maybe preliminary, just leave it as a, would require publishing on town website of preliminary quarterly reports on town expenditures. The goal is for, greater transparency, more information in a timely manner. I think that makes it. So I'm fine with leaving unaudited or any other qualifier out. I mean,
I don't disagree with adding the unaudited, just to make it a little more clear that, this is it's a work in progress report, but we're trying to get it out, every quarter.
my point though is that every report is not audited, is unaudited until it has undergone an audit.
Mm.
So even the final reports are unaudited.
Yeah, we can leave it as preliminary, which is how it's referred to in the
Yeah.
in the article, so as not to add.
And if somebody has a question, they can ask the question. I don't think anybody's going to complain about, there being greater transparency. So are you ready for a motion?
I am, unless there are any other questions.
So I make a motion that we recommend draft control L.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay,
Peter.
motion's made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Sorry, what was the motion? My computer went all garbled for a second.
Oh, sorry, the motion is to recommend draft control L.
Thank you.
All right, I will do a roll call vote then. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well.
Could we just go back up the list
Mhm.
before you go down? So G, H, and I, we have comments on already from before, right? G,
Yes.
yes, H, and I, and those are all been reviewed. Okay, I just
Mhm.
trying to keep and we haven't
Yep.
voted on J yet either, correct?
Jay, we have not voted on. Elliot is doing the comments
Yeah,
for that.
okay.
And I thought that might be one to save for
Yep.
next week.
Yep, just. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Draft control M.
I don't think we voted on this one
We
yet
have
either.
not voted on this one yet. This is amend bylaw, chapter 31, resource, water resource management. Let me, should I bring this one up on screen? It's a long one.
I don't need it. I mean, if somebody
Okay.
else wants it, we can certainly do it.
We'll see if we have questions, but
This one, I think, so I did this one and our language has to comply due to well, I worded it here, but water management permit that the MADEP put out there. So I think we have to comply with it in order to be in proper compliance, I believe.
So it has to comply to be in compliance, right?
Right, that was a lot of comply.
yeah, we had our old, this one is the full pull and replace.
Yeah, they're
It-
deleting the whole
Yeah.
bylaw.
Yeah, the whole
Right.
bylaw
this
is
is-
coming out and a new
Right.
one's going in and it's
this is-
just to be updated so that we, are in line with mass law and mass DEP.
Up with the times.
I'm fine with this. So if you're ready for a motion, I'll
Okay.
make a motion. I'll,
I think so.
I make a motion that we recommend draft control M.
Okay, do I have a second?
And I will second the motion to recommend draft control M.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, I will call for a roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. And these comments, any further discussion on those? Those look good? All
Yes.
right, excellent. That is draft control M. All right, we did N and O last time. Draft control P. That is also one that I need to do the comments on. My apologies, but I think we can go ahead and vote our recommendation.
Do we have it yet? Draft control P?
I thought,
I'm not saying we don't. I'm just wanting to verify that we have draft control P.
Yes, we have. it.
yes, because we
Yeah.
spoke to Greg about it at the 328 meeting.
This is a fairly routine, I think,
Yeah.
we have the same comments in every time. I don't think we really
Yeah.
need to look at these.
Belabor that, yeah. But
So
I do not believe we voted on this one last time, so let's go ahead.
I don't think so. So I'll
Yeah.
make a motion. We recommend draft control P.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's Peter. Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
Danielle,
Danielle did.
second. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Excellent. Moving on.
So you're just going to put in the
Yeah, I'll go ahead and
customary
do the comments
language
and yep,
I think that's fine.
Alana, just for note,
Yep.
taking purposes, can you Do we have access to this? Like if I want to go back and refer to certain ones?
To this document, this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will put this up on board docs. If
okay, thank
I
you.
was editing it right up
Although-
until the end of this meet, if we started this
Yeah.
meeting, so.
No, thank you.
Peter started to say
Oh,
something.
sorry, you're talking about the comments.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Yes, and actually, if you could email it out, Alana, that would be,
sure. Yeah, I'll
Great,
do that
great.
after,
thank you. Yeah.
after the meeting. All right, draft control Q, we did not vote on yet, I believe, as far as my notes. So this is the transfer from sewer retained earnings. And the article is going to use 200,000 of the 961,699 of sewer retained earnings to establish a reserve fund. We talked to Justin
So-
about this. Go ahead, Peter.
So I wrote this comment. I did it fairly late and sent Justin an email today, just trying to confirm these numbers.
Okay,
And so I would say we could still vote to recommend this article,
sure.
but we may want to revisit the comments next week. So
Yep, I'll make a note of
I
that.
just want to make sure we're not spending any of this money anywhere else.
Mhm.
Sorry.
And then, does anybody recall that the difference between the size of the sewer retained earnings reserve fund is 200K and the water retained or water enterprise fund reserve fund is 500K? Did we?
I
have some idea
believe
they were
he-
thinking just more issues with water.
Yes, I
But-
believe he did touch on that when we had him at our meeting, and I believe that was the case, is that having to do with the infrastructure and what ends up happening, water tends to be more on the fly breaks, or, things that, water main breaks and things, I guess, and sewer isn't always
So
something that
that's my
needs,
recollection
yeah.
too. I put that in these two recommendations, but kind of want to confirm it with Justin too.
Okay.
Before, so
So
but we can
just to,
revisit them next week too.
so just to clarify, you sent him these and asked him to review the numbers and the language?
I did not send him the full comments. I asked him questions about, are we spending this money anywhere else? And, why is the sewer so much bigger than the water, or I'm sorry, why is the water bigger than the sewer?
Okay.
Can I ask a question? The purpose for your last sentence, we are deliberately building a surplus. Because isn't that implied in the
To
first
me,
one?
writing this, it begs the question, well, okay, you got 761,000. Why aren't you cutting my water rates? Or my sewer rates? So we, have a surplus of 961,000. We're going to use 200 of it for this reserve fund. I don't think we're spending the 761 anywhere else.
So I don't disagree with that at all. So I just,
So I
we're,
just want to,
right. So we're deliberately building a surplus in the enterprise fund for unanticipated expenses due to aging infrastructure, or, I mean, it just, you're right.
For future use.
You're right that that sentence responds to the question that is built up in the earlier ones, but it still sort of leaves out, what is the surplus going to be used for?
so a little bit, I just ran out of time and then truncated the sentence. I initially wrote the sentence trying to explain what we're using it for, but then it gets into, I mean, it's the two biggest infrastructure needs in the town.
That,
Mhm.
I
Maybe
think that's
aside
what
from
we,
schools.
I think that's what we say, is that, we have an aid, to address, unanticipated expenses, to maintain and repair, major, aging infrastructure or something like that. So I don't think it has to be a lot, but so.
about for our aging infrastructure
Well,
needs?
I think Peter's probably gonna review it, so I just.
Okay.
You know.
Well,
we don't
actually,
need
no,
to-
yeah, I started to get into like 4 sentences and then didn't want to be all that detailed. So actually, I'll take that sentence, fine, Alana. I think that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
But we can also add to it next week. So
So we haven't voted on this, so you're looking for a motion, correct?
Correct.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend draft control Q.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. I will call for a roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right. That is control Q. Moving on. This is, we've already sort of touched on it a little bit. But here is draft control R. Very
think
much the same, but for water.
I think we add the same, sentence on the end for whatever the last words that you put,
Yep.
you can cut and paste. So I'll make a
Also
motion
needs
that,
to be an S on issues. Sorry,
Yep.
just because Word's telling me that.
So helpful.
so I'll make a motion that we recommend draft R, draft
right.
control R.
Okay. Do we have a second?
And I will second recommending draft control R.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. And a roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well.
so just to clarify on these two comments for Q and R,
Mhm.
then Peter, you're confirming the numbers and then getting that to Alana.
Yes.
Yeah, we can take a look
Okay.
at those quickly again.
And
next
so we
week as
we
well.
don't really need, yeah, that's true,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. That was R.
can you go back up? Did we
Sure.
do the comments for T?
Let's see.
There we are. Yes, I guess
Okay, so I'm
so.
looking at my notes. Okay, so, no, you're correct. We voted
We-
on S
And we voted on,
last week.
and we voted on T as well. So we've seen those comments. Okay, so we're on U, okay?
We've voted on T. Yeah, I thought we did.
We did,
Yes.
we
Okay.
did.
Great.
Mhm.
So I'll make a
Um,
motion that we adopt, we recommend draft control U.
Okay, do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, the comments look good.
Yay.
Thanks. Yeah, good job, Katie.
I don't know what I'm writing, but I think it makes sense.
You're getting it. No, you're getting it.
No.
Well,
Wait, I'm sorry, which one?
you-
No,
Draft
don't
control
read
U.
into it.
This is the prior year's bills, the Wheelabrator contract from,
Oh,
This is the one that we owe like tons, right? And we just make little payments to make them happy. Is that the one?
no.
no,
Oh, okay.
that's actually the one question I had about the comments. This is
Yeah, I
not,
don't,
So maybe we do need to alter it. I was thinking, so
Yeah.
the way it was worded, it didn't seem like that would
hold
eliminate the balance. And I could be wrong about that.
okay, hold on. Let me pull up the actual article.
Or was this one that they just missed it one year? Like they accidentally
Yes.
didn't pay the
Yes.
bill? Okay.
Let me
Okay.
just grab it real quick
So
though.
it probably does need to be changed a teeny.
Yeah, well, the comments I was gonna say, the voting on recommending, I think is
Yeah.
one thing, but the comments do need just a little bit
Yeah.
of tweaking, but just so we're clear, I'm gonna show the article real quick.
It was a short and sweet one.
Yes,
That's right. That was the misspell. Okay.
satisfy. Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Satisfy outstanding balances.
Like
It
it's
is a little,
plural
yeah,
and
it seems
a little
a little,
vague.
okay. We can fix that.
Yeah.
We'll fix ours, so they're a little clearer.
Yeah.
But we have a motion on the floor to recommend
Yes.
the draft control that has been made and seconded, aside from the comments, which we'll look at in
Well,
just a
let's go,
second.
yeah, let's go ahead and do the comments first before. we
Okay,
Yeah.
vote.
and then we'll be done with discussion on it. Sounds good. Okay, so as it
Would eliminate what as it
yeah,
Yeah, I would,
will eliminate an outstanding balance.
yeah.
yeah, I would say more, it's an obligation of the town and we have to pay it. This is a valid obligation of the town and we need to pay it. It should have been paid last year. Yeah, I almost feel the need to say something about, this is a mistake and we have, some confidence that it won't happen again. How much confidence we have, I don't know, but
So, right, so this was.
but this is straight up a mistake.
Is a, yes,
An error.
an obligation. For
Yeah,
the
I would take
town.
out the sentence before.
This
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, so this is a financial obligation.
Why is that
for-
wrong, taking out that sentence?
It sounds too positive, and we're not eliminating. I guess we're eliminating amounts. We're paying a bill from last year that we should have paid last year.
Well, then, okay, so I'm fine with doing that. The point is that this appropriates a certain sum to pay a bill. That's what, we're not, see, the problem is it starts with the first sentence, appropriate a
Right.
sum of X to,
To Wheelabrator
right, to pay a bill,
to pay
an outstanding financial
an
obligation or a bill or whatever.
outstanding bill. This is a financial obligation for the town. It resulted from a one-time oversight. Do we want to say that?
From an oversight.
From an oversight.
Yeah.
That
During
has
staff turnover? I
an
mean,
oversight that has
why, right?
since been
Addressed.
addressed.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here, I thought my comment was okay.
That's all right. That's why we're here. To pay an outstanding bill. This is a financial obligation for the town. It resulted from an oversight that has since been addressed.
I think that
That's
sounds
pretty-
good.
Pretty clear, concise.
Yeah, that at least puts a negative connotation on it. So
Yeah, I know, I agree. I think it, yeah, we should know why that we're doing this, and this is an odd one, and yeah, it was a.
Yep, check.
Any further discussion on this draft control before I call for the vote? Motion has been made and seconded for the vote. Okay, then I will go through roll call. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right, Control U. Control V. I don't seem to, Danielle, did you send?
I
Are we
haven't
doing
submitted
V?
my comments yet.
Okay,
I'll
that's
have them
fine.
for next meeting though.
Not a problem. Would we like to go ahead and vote the recommendation or wait until next meeting when we have the comments?
I mean, if we're gonna take a look at the comments next week, we
Yeah.
might as well.
Might
Might
as
as
well
well
just
wait.
hold it
next
off
week.
and then it's one piece. Yeah, I agree. I think that's fine. All right, draft control W, easement at 129 Parker Street. We did not vote on this yet. And here are the comments.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend draft control W.
All right, do I have a second?
I will second the motion to approve Control W.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I will go for the roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. All right, we're going to get to the citizens petitions in a second, but I wanted to, and hang on, let me bring up the draft control because this is the first time we're all looking at it. This is an additional draft control from CPC that I had sent. To you all. I hope you got a chance to look at it. Okay. Let me open it up. And I can explain it a little bit too. As I was in that discussion. Okay. We may need to wait. Ken and Peter, if I don't know the draft control or the article number, do we need to hold off on a vote until we do get that?
So has this been voted on by the select board?
It actually has not. It will be tomorrow. So I
So I think typically
think we
would
have to wait.
not-
Right. That's
we
fine.
we would not vote on it until it'd been forwarded to us,
Right.
in its final form.
In its final form.
I
That makes
believe the
sense.
CPC is also meeting on this evening, isn't it?
Indeed they are. Yes. So let's have a bit of preliminary discussion about it. It's the first time we're all looking at it. And then next week we will have our final discussion and approval. But I can just give you a little background on this. So 2020 annual town meeting, the town voted the budget for the CPC, which included an amount of $50,000 for the Maynard High School front field irrigation project. The wording, which I put in the comments that I was going to share and recommend so that town meeting voters can see what the original wording is. And it just said, it was very, short as they are in their articles, that it was in the amount of $50,000 for the Maynard High School front field irrigation with unexpected funds as of June 30th, 2023 to be returned to their original funding source. The CPC project, or the project leaders on this, which I believe is from the rec department, then discovered that they weren't quite ready to just go ahead and put in an irrigation system, that they really needed to do some studying and planning before they went ahead and did that. And so they went back to CPC and said, can we go ahead and use this money for studies and plans? Or was this money solely for the actual irrigation system? And CPC said, the wording is a little vague, not really sure that it's okay to use this for, you know, a study and plans instead of the actual irrigation system itself. So they decided, you know, to be sure that everyone was doing everything by the book, that we go back to town meeting with this and say, this is going to be used in a slightly broader way than we had said before. So to be clear, this is not asking for any additional funding. This is from, the money is already set aside. We are just making sure that the town meeting voters are aware of how specifically it's going to get spent.
So could I ask a question?
Sure.
So this was originally for 50K for them to do the front field irrigation.
Yes.
And now they're saying that they're going to need to do additional studies and plans prior to implementing this system.
Yes.
So are they going to have to come back for additional funding later on for the actual irrigation system?
I believe that question was asked, and I, forgive me, don't remember the full answer. If they believe that the 50 is going to cover the study and the full system, or if what you're saying, you know, they're going to get the study and maybe part of it done, and then we'll need a bit of additional. I can ask
Yeah, I mean, because,
the rec.
you know, because quite frankly, you know, this isn't just a matter of vagueness. This is a matter of, you know, of what the expenditure is. I'm not sure that we would want to spend $50,000 on studies and then come back later on and say, oh, this is actually going to cost $100,000.
Right. Make a note to ask that question. I'll bring the answer next week. Any other discussion on this? And again, we're going to revisit this, and we'll wait and hold off on our voting of it once it's accepted from the select board and sent to us.
I think it might also be good to understand, if we do this study, how long the plans are good for.
Okay.
'Cause I think that was, you know, one of the things with the fire station, you know, there was a time window once you make plans, like, and you get a bid or estimate, I guess, it's not a bid. Like a certain amount of time that's good for before materials change cost and all this other stuff.
Right. Good question.
Because, you know, if, like Ken said, if it is an additional cost, you know, it could potentially commit us or set us on a timeline where we would have to make a commitment or not within a certain window, or would waste
Right.
money on the study.
Good question. I will try to get an answer.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions or thoughts, discussion on this one? Okay. All right. So that leaves the citizens petitions. And we can do some discussion on that tonight. And just to recap a little bit, for next week, we have J, certified free cash appropriation. We have D, the general fund budget. Oh no, we voted on D. No, we did not. I know I didn't do the comments yet. Did we vote on D on 328?
Yes, we did vote on. I'm just looking at my records. We did
Yes,
vote
okay,
on it.
that's what I thought.
Yes, we
I
did.
had that. All right, so that's been voted on, so we'll take a brief look at the comments. J, we will vote on. V, we will vote on. This new one, assuming it comes through for CPC, we will vote on. Okay, I think I got everything down. All right. Kevin, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'd just like to make the committee aware that as the petitioner for Control Y, Z, A, and BB, that I'm present at this meeting and available for questioning if they so desire.
Okay, thank you. So I had sent the sponsor comments along for these articles. Where would we like to start the discussion, I guess? Well, should we just go down the list of the articles? Do we want to look at the sponsor comments? I don't think I have them yet in like together with the article, which is unfortunate.
So where are you going to start? Are we starting with X? Or are we starting?
Yeah, let's start. Oh, right, X. Yes, let's start there. Let me bring that up. Which is the Maynard, Green Maynard's climate emergency declaration. Pull that up for you.
So while you're pulling it up, do we have this in final form now? I'm assuming we do. I'm confirming.
Hold on, because the one that I was just looking at, I don't see the sponsor comments, and I'm not sure if there was a later version with that on it. I don't believe I have a later version with sponsor comments on it. I don't know, as we had talked about in our, I believe our last meeting, whether or not that was required for a citizen's petition. So I'll ask Becky, but this is the one I had and it did not have it on there.
Peter, that's my recollection is that for citizens petition, sponsor comments are recommended but not required. Is that your recollection?
Yes, I mean, even for, you know, other articles, I'm not sure if there's a requirement for sponsors' comments. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have them, but if we don't, I don't think that prevents the article from going forward.
Right.
They influence our recommendation.
Who's writing the recommendation up for this?
I think I'm doing all the citizen ones.
Yeah, and we had said we were going to talk about them more tonight, and that, you know, so they would not be ready tonight.
Do you
Based
need
on our
help?
discussion.
Do you need help on any of them, Jill?
Well, I think she needed a little bit more of a understanding of our, you know, recommendations or not, if they were, you know,
Okay,
before she
that's
wrote
fair
them.
enough.
Yeah. So what do we want to talk about with regards to this one? It's really advisory.
It doesn't do anything, right? It's just
I feel that too. It doesn't do anything. It just recommends that they, well, they have to produce,
They-
they have to
yeah,
produce a plan.
The
a climate
Sustainability
action.
Committee, yeah, is charged with making a climate action plan.
Well,
Well,
we asked
no,
the select board
yeah.
to charge the sustainability
Oh,
committee. So
true,
that's
sele-
right.
a given.
Yeah,
Ah.
Peter's right.
Oh.
It's not,
Okay.
you know, all it's saying is we ask the select board to charge, and if they do, but you know,
They probably will anyway.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, I
my,
guess overall, I don't think I have a problem with this one,
Hmm.
the way I did when it had a staff position in it.
Right.
I mean, I think I'm generally supportive. I'm somewhat torn between the idea, you know, do we want town meeting to become a place where people, you know, where we make statements about issues and don't really do anything? But
I
Mm.
completely agree. I just, you know, this is a laudable action. So, you know, this is not about whether this, you know, this is something that, you know, we as a community or as a state or, you know, country or world, you know, we should obviously be doing a lot more. But there's a part of me that, you know, just feels as though if we're asking town meeting voters to vote on something, you know, what is this accomplishing? And I think in particular, we're taking up town meeting time on something that really fundamentally doesn't do anything. It's not, you know, it does not result in action.
Mhm.
So when we say, you know, we ask, so that's the residents, you know, town meeting voters are asking the select board to do X. Okay. We commit, town meeting voters are committing to, you know, so.
Yeah, so I think our comments can certainly reflect those sentiments regardless of our vote of recommendation.
I mean, I suppose we could take a neutral, you know, we could take a neutral position on, you know, on this. You know, we don't, you know, there's nothing, there's nothing that we're supposed to make a recommendation. I suppose a recommendation, you know, could be, you know, that, you know, there is no recommendation, you know, we, you know, neither recommend nor, you know, decline to recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also certainly in favor of, you know, taking a vote to recommend or not recommend, and then in the comments being very clear that it was not unanimous or that we're divided or for reasons that, you know, are specified, not that it's against the sentiment, but more just from a procedural standpoint.
I think there's something to the neutral aspect though, because I don't think I'm for or against it. I just don't quite understand what it does. So I
I
don't
agree, Daniel.
I don't know
Yeah.
what I would vote.
And they say we commit to take actions, but they don't say what they are.
Well, and it's unclear like how it's accomplished and
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
The cost. And
Hey, Justine, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Hey, actually, I think one of you just said it. I was just going to throw out there the one concern, or the one thing that I would look at is that do we know how much producing a climate action plan costs? And you know, so is there actually money attached to this that we're going to have to somehow allocate?
It's a good question. I think we were assuming because it's the sustainability committee's charge to do so, if the select board does that, and that they are a board of volunteers, correct me if I'm wrong, that it would just be their time, but you are correct. Is there, I mean, and certainly even just asking time of town employees to assist them is a cost. So,
Well, I think Justine's point too, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if they were to need to leverage like a consultant or an expert to build
Right.
that plan, that would have a cost associated with it.
mhm. And I believe
So,
there's been some talk too about looking into like a regional approach for sustainability. Again, Justine, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this came up in a select board meeting that, you know, there may be other towns doing similar things or whatnot that we can sort of pool resources into this effort, but we have not yet made those connections and decisions.
The sustainability committee is so new that we haven't had really the opportunity to try to regionalize with, and with any other town yet.
I think I'd be inclined to say, because, the purpose and the outcomes of this, this article, because of the potential costs associated with this climate action plan, and because of, unknown opportunities to connect with regional and state efforts that, we don't have a recommendation. I'm hesitant to recommend something like this.
Mhm.
As laudable as I personally think it is, I'm just saying, there's just too many unknowns around, cost and outcomes.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, but
go ahead, Peter.
sorry, go ahead. I guess I'm kind of thinking though, yes, there are unknowns, but we're not making any decisions with this article. So I guess I'm mindful of the fact that their earlier version had pressed for a staff position. And the guy came to our meeting and we talked back and forth, and he's like, asking when can, because we were so late in this budget process, how can he get a staff position approved? And if that were the proposal, I think I'd be a definite no. But as a general thing that, is somewhat just kind of advisory, again, I'm not sure the town meeting is the place for this stuff, but I'm hesitant not to recommend this. I mean, it's my job is working around climate change in a lot of ways. And I mean, that's what I do. So I think this is a real issue. And, a little bit, this is, you pass this in 100 towns and then you leverage that to get the legislature at the state level to do something.
Not if you
That,
pass it in this form, though. I mean, this form does,
Well-
it talks nothing about connecting with regional efforts or state efforts. It says nothing about what the climate action plan, should contain, other than making recommendations for some, vague specific strategies for Maynard. I just think from a legislative perspective, it's too vague. There's an unknown potential cost, and it's not coordinating with other efforts. But again, that's just one person's opinion.
Mhm.
All right, we're not going to vote on this tonight, though, right? I'm thinking that, this would be one to let stew for a week.
I think we could certainly go that route. Yeah, if we want some more time.
So I'm not suggesting we have to vote on this tonight. and nor do we have to decide, but I think, I mean, at a minimum, I think we ought to take a polling. We've heard from a few members, but if we're going to write up a recommendation for next week, whether it's Jill or somebody else is going to do it, then we, in all fairness, we ought to,
Yeah.
we ought to get a sense for the
Yeah.
sense of the committee on how the vote's going to go. And we've only heard from 3.
I think to me, it's really hard too, because 50% reduction of what? How are we gonna,
As in, like, where are we starting from?
yeah, it doesn't, I agree with the vagueness part.
Well, I mean, that's already, I mean, you can argue how effective a state law it is, but that's already a state law that we've set a goal of 50% reduction. I mean, exactly what that means.
Right,
I don't
how
know,
that's
but
gonna come into play, right?
That's the state level thing.
That's another question, actually, though. So are we just gonna get handed mandates and it doesn't matter what our climate action plan says? We're just gonna
Well,
be
but-
told what to do.
So what does the state law say that mandates a 50% reduction? Do they have specific, ways of accomplishing this?
Yeah, I think it's more, yeah, I don't know specifically, but I think it's more, they just set a goal of 50% reduction by 2030.
8 years away.
Yeah, it's a nice goal.
Next 8 years, we're gonna cut it in half.
Apparently, there is a Massachusetts Clean Energy and Climate Action Plan for 2025 and 2023. So I don't know how much of that could translate to Maynard specifically or not. I'm not going to go into it right now,
Well,
but
so again, I think I'd like to hear from, you've already heard from a few of us, but
Well, so number
And-
2, right? It's just saying we commit to take actions, but once they decide what those actions are, would we then vote on them? So is this all just preliminary? We want to get charged with the task, and then whatever they decide from those tasks will be further voting and further decision making. Like, we're not approving them to do anything specifically right now, just with the task of making a plan for these goals, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
see, I object a little bit to this whole idea of asking the select board to take on, this action in a vague way. Because now, it's easy for us to sit there and say, oh yeah, we recommend. So town meeting voters pass this, then the select board is on the hook to ask a volunteer committee to come up with an action plan, undefined outcomes, undefined scope, undefined everything, undefined cost in terms of using a consultant. And now if the select board doesn't somehow pony up the money, then, there's, they're being open for criticism. And I just think if we're going to do this, we got to,
Yeah.
it ought to be, better founded.
yeah, I think
We haven't
think I-
gotten their comments yet, right? I didn't see them in the emails.
no, I don't. And I was just thinking that, that I don't think I have, but again, that is something for me to check on.
So one alternative to this is to push it forward to next week or the next meeting. And if we don't make a recommendation by that, we can make a recommendation at town meeting. I mean, there's nothing that says it has to go in, in the printed warrant.
That is true.
And that would allow for, further discussion or,
Right.
explanation or what have you. I can tell you just as one person that's, I'm very hesitant to find a way forward to, support this, no
Mhm.
matter how laudable it seems.
Okay, just gonna make some notes on that one. And we will revisit that one next week. All right. Draft control. Why? I'm gonna bring up the draft control first, and then we can take a look at the sponsor comments if we want to, but this one, this is the solid waste collection change. And I believe this is the one that is going to be ruled out of order at town meeting. Although I can check with Dick Downey on that. I don't think I got I believe that's what Greg said, but I don't think I've gotten Dick's actual ruling on this.
Well, so, we can, so we can also defer this. We can, until it's finalized, or, and at that point, we can make a recommendation. At this point, I mean, we could obviously make a recommendation not to recommend. But if it's still, if we don't have definitive what's going to happen with this, then
Mhm.
I think we
I
leave it
agree.
open and punt and go on to the,
Yeah, I think this, because this one, certainly if it's going to be ruled out of order on the floor, then I don't think we need to take too much time debating its merits necessarily. If it's not, then, and I'll confirm with Dick Downey.
yeah, I mean, there's always a chance, I suppose, that, motion could be made from the floor, in which case we would still have to come up with a recommendation.
Right.
And, again, we probably ought as a committee, ought to, weigh the factors and, be
Right.
prepared for having to make a recommendation to town meeting voters.
Mhm.
All right.
Indeed. All right, moving along. Z. Sorry, my computer has slowed down on me. 1 second. It's thinking about it. Probably have too many windows open. Let me close some of these other ones. Okay. All right, draft control Z. Recording of public meetings. And we can also bring up the citizen sponsor comments as well, which I did forward those to everybody, right? In email?
You did, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I have a email out to Mark, the WAVM teacher or supervisor. He's in charge of uploading our meetings to the YouTube channel for us. Now that we're recording them on Zoom, I had some questions about time that it takes him to do such, and also wanted some feedback on the petitioner's comment that this could be done with a cheap webcam. Maybe I'll pull those up to discuss.
That'd be many webcams, right? Like per committee and per, if we can't all just share one.
Well, it's not only that, but that is not a solution for a public meeting in a room like at town hall where there's
Right.
multiple people.
Right.
You would be what, passing around a laptop for everyone that needed to speak. There's a reason that we have the large, the very well done setup that we have in that room to record public meetings. It's not a simple thing. It's not just on someone's laptop when it's in public, when, and there's participants and there's 7 of us, we're not sitting around one webcam and being heard and seen. Let me pull up these. Here we go. Just so I can speak on it. Make sure I'm not misrepresenting. Okay, Control Z. These are the sponsor comments. So I'm speaking to this third paragraph here. That there's unlimited YouTube storage and that it would only cost, less than $50 for a webcam. And I disagree. I think for Zoom meetings, it's simple, simple enough. However, and as I'm waiting to hear back from, like I said, from the teacher, the WAVM teacher, on how long it takes him to do each one. I did reach out to the town clerk's office to ask how many public meetings are posted every week. And he said it ranges from 4 to 8. So 8 meetings, if we're going to go simple here, we're going to go the simplest possible outcome, 8 Zoom meetings. And that takes Mark, I don't know, 10 minutes per meeting. Maybe not quite. You're talking somewhere, anywhere from a half an hour to an hour of his time weekly. So that's not no cost there, but that's the simplest. If we're talking back to in-person meetings, which I assume many, committees are going to go back to, we may all have to go back to starting in July, we don't know yet. There is, in my mind, no capability for this to happen 4 to 8 times a week in person with the setups we have. And I also just question the, I guess the outcome, the need for this in terms of how many people are going to sit down and watch the bylaw committee meeting. If we put all the, no offense, bylaw committee, I used to be on the bylaw committee, love the bylaw committee. But I can tell you, when I was on it for multiple years, we never had one person come to it. And I assume, and I'm not saying that I think that's because people don't care. I believe they do, but I believe for the most part, our citizens trust in our committees. And should there be an issue, or should they have a question, or, should something be happening that they need more information on, that they can reach out to the chairs and they can do that. And we you know, we do already record every select board meeting. I believe we record every school committee meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I just think this adds a complexity and a cost that is not correctly stated here. I think that's my thoughts.
All right, so I actually like this article. I support the intent of it. To me, though, the issue is, I mean, this is why, you know, legislation goes through committees. You know, I think the proper forum for this is to bring it to the bylaw committee, and then it's not as quick and as efficient as just doing a citizen's petition at town meeting, but you get then a chance to go through questions about, you know, what is the cost? How will we store this? What are we going to write for rules around storage? What happens if the technology breaks down? Does that mean you can't have the meeting? There's a whole series of questions that this, you know, this warrant article doesn't address, that in a legislative process would be, you know, you could have 6 months, 9 months, a year to go through the questions and figure out, well, what do other towns do? And then on the storage thing, yeah, I can't speak to the YouTube storage. I do know that there is somewhere some constraint on storage, such because the Charter Review Committee meetings are recorded, and for some reason, and as I understand it, it's based on storage space, the December meeting we were trying to access was already deleted. So it's not just that it's easy to have them forever. Now, maybe it's because it wasn't put on YouTube. I don't know the deal with that, but there is some issue with storage because we had a meeting we were looking for that was already deleted. So while I support the idea of this article, I would be recommending against this article because I don't think it's a fully fleshed out proposal yet.
Yeah, the issue you're talking about, Peter, is with Zoom and our cloud storage there. You are correct. Mhm.
So since we're going around the table, I don't support this one at all. I think we have open meeting law, which allows our meetings to be open. It's been very fortunate that Zoom makes it easy to record the meetings. You know, for that matter, you know, we're sitting here talking about cameras. You know, audio recording of the soundtrack would be a lot more efficient use of space. I agree with Peter that there's a whole bunch of challenges that would be, would be worked out if we, we talked about, the issues here. To me, I think, the idea of sitting here recording the video, the storage and all these other things, that comes to mind. But I think there's also, we have an open meeting law that allows people to come to attend a meeting. That's what that's for, is to make sure that, meetings can be attended. I, like you, Alana, question how many people really take advantage of this. I suppose there are a few people who, view the meetings, but I just, the idea of requiring all municipal meetings to be recorded, to me, is just, not, is not justified by the potential expense, the actual expense, the trouble, the burden to chairs and so forth. We're volunteers. We have to abide by open meeting law. I'm not in favor of this.
Yeah, I think we'll end up here in 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, even if nobody looks at it, I think it's a, valuable thing that it would be recorded and be public.
So valuable
I
in
just
what
think
sense?
it's
I mean,
a
I'm
little
actually
bit
interested.
clumsy doing it this early.
I just, so it's valuable in what sense? Of keeping,
It's access to local government. It's, the same. If I want to look back and see what was said at the bylaw committee last September, if it's easy, I should be able to do that. And right now, so right now, in theory, we have that. What I have to do is go back and look at the minutes. And, the minutes are a less than perfect representation of the meeting. It would be much better if I could watch the actual meeting itself. If it was easy and little to no, or even if it costs something to do it, I would certainly be in favor of it. I just think it's kind of half baked at this point. And that's why I'm against it.
I agree
I support
that
the idea.
I agree that recording, the school committee meetings, the select board meetings, I think frankly, most of the FinCom meetings aren't that interesting, but to people who are outside, no, it's the truth. There's, it's not that interesting to people who are outside. It's interesting to us, but I just don't think it's that interesting. But if we record it, I can almost understand why. I mean, I've certainly, recorded our public hearings because I felt as though as we were talking about the legislative function and preparing for town meeting, it made sense to do that. But, there are a lot of meetings, rec committee, historical committee, et cetera, ad nauseum that I question, I challenge the idea that this would be a valuable thing. Frankly, I think it's a lot of trouble and a lot of expense for something that won't be viewed or would be viewed far too few times to justify having to do this for all municipal meetings. If this were, and I'd actually be interested if any town does this. Is there any town anywhere that records every municipal meeting? I find that hard to believe.
I guess I would say not yet, but again, I think in 5 years, this will be, the standard.
Recording every
we'll see if we get there. We don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway, we're arguing. I think we're both still going to recommend against this, but I don't know what other people have to say.
Yeah, other thoughts, Danielle, Katie?
Yeah, I think similar to Peter, I'd like to see it go through more of a structured process to kind of hammer out some of the details. I am curious how other towns are handling this. I took a look at our YouTube. The views are very small. Like all the recent meetings are between like 2 to 60 views total. So to me, that goes to Ken's point that, there might be some value in it, but is it worth the inconvenience? It's going to drag down the time spent in our meetings between like setup and making sure everything works and then dealing with it when it doesn't work. And so I'm not opposed to the idea, but I do have some concerns about the way it's currently presented. I also think that we're relying on YouTube to continue to be free, and we can't bank on that. So I think we would need to know how much it costs to store it on our own, because we need to have a reliable storage method if we're going to do this.
Good point. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. And I know past couple of years, and I think of other groups that I'm with, that Zoom has become a convenience. It's great, but yet when you're proactive about something, you come to the meeting, and that's okay too. And it's open to people, and we're not, we're open to people attending our discussions. And I have a hard time also incurring extra cost and time and et cetera for that extra convenience.
If I could just add on to that, I think there are times, particularly with select board and school committee meetings, and maybe even FinCom meetings. Although again, I'm finding it very hard to believe that there's really that much interest in what we have to say. But I think, in particular, school committee meetings, most people would say they've appreciated having live streaming and even the recording afterwards for issues that are important. Hey, did you hear that such and so was discussed? This isn't, about the idea of recording some meetings for the convenience of people, many of whom can't attend meetings on a regular basis. I think school committee is an excellent example where, if you've got small kids, because you got kids in school and therefore you're interested in school committee, then having that live streamed and having that recorded makes a lot of sense. It's really the idea of, rec committee, all these other ones. So.
Jill, did you have anything?
I'm diligently taking notes here. I think we brought up a lot of good points. There's, potential unknown costs here. Like we don't know, like if there's any precedent, do the videos have to be stored for 5 years, 7 years? Like, I don't know what YouTube's retention policy is. And, kind of like Danielle was saying, we would probably have to have our own backup too. So, costs would be potentially associated with maintaining that and potential backups, et cetera, IT redundancy. I think, as a committee, we encourage citizen participation, definitely fostering open legislative process. But, I kind of feel like, I think, maybe echoing what Ken might have been saying is that, our open meeting laws sort of ensure that there's public awareness, and it encourages that the meeting is going to occur. It encourages participation at this time. And, I think, like Peter said, this process is probably going to go forward, in the next 5 to 10 years where this might be a reality, but I'm just not sure we're there right now. Particularly like you were saying, if we have to go back to face-to-face meetings, Alana, that,
Right.
There's only one room in town hall that can accommodate that. And if there's 4 to 8 meetings a week, that's not going to work.
Right, not to mention the WAVM student time as they
Yes.
do it for the select board in that room. So at this time, do we feel confident voting?
I'll make a motion that we do not.
Oh.
I'll make a motion that we do not recommend Control Z.
I'll second that. If I may, I certainly appreciate the effort to participate in government. So if you're willing, Alana, I don't know if Mr. Stone has something he wants to add to our discussion or respond to anything before we vote, but I for one would be interested to hear.
Sure, go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Pete. So I have immensely benefited from the uploading of YouTube videos. There's a feature on there that enables meetings to actually be played back at 2 times speed. And I imagine even the FinCom committee in its oversight abilities would appreciate that feature in that it significantly cuts down on the time. Meetings take half as long as it takes to review. So if you have to go and review like a select board meeting or a school committee meeting or the discussion of DPW funds and how it's being spent, that feature is immensely useful. From a citizen's participation perspective, it is groundbreaking. I know numerous people who would love to be involved in these meetings, in these open meetings, that cannot, either because they work during the time the meetings are posted, or they have young children that need to be put to bed at the times the meeting are posted. My kids are going to bed right now. When they were younger, I was unable to participate in the same number of meetings. So having meetings be recorded is a huge lower of barrier to entry to citizens. In addition, there are particular instances where major controversial decisions were made by town government and they were not recorded. And this citizen's petition is to address that. In particular, the Board of Health meeting was where the decision regarding the mask mandate was held and was not recorded, and there were a lot of rumors being spread. This also addresses, by recording the meetings, it also addresses the issues the town has faced on numerous occasions with social media and the spread of both rumors and false information on social media. I've seen numerous instances where posts are made on Facebook saying that such a thing was said in a meeting and people debate whether it was actually said. But if you have the video recording, it's unambiguous as to what was said during those meetings, and there's no controversy. You have the video recording, you have the transcript, you know exactly what was said, and it cuts down significantly on the rumors and misinformation going around about our town government. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Pete.
Both,
So-
all great points.
Yes, and I support most of that, if not all of that. I don't know what's going to happen. If this doesn't pass a town meeting, I would encourage you to present this to the bylaw committee and, do a longer process that could address some of these issues that are being raised about cost and complications and stuff. So anyway.
Okay, I say one other thing. So FinCom actually has the ability to amend articles at town meeting, and I would be very amenable.
We don't have time to do that.
Yeah,
Chris.
I know.
mean, we don't know the answers. So
I understand.
it takes I guess my point is, you can't do this stuff just by, filing a citizens. It takes a while to come up with a good bylaw that's workable and has addressed all the issues people raise. And I think that's important, that process. So
Well,
we
this
won't be
is
able
a
to figure it out by
mechanism.
then.
This is a mechanism to get the conversation started. I'm certainly going to take your advice,
Okay.
and if it doesn't pass, go by the bylaws. But this definitely gets the ball rolling on it. And I know it's an imperfect process, and it's only one person, one person right now that's written this law. But the citizens petitions are far more responsive to the will of the voters than the legislative branches. The executive branch. I should say. We're technically, the town meeting's the legislative branch. The executive branch is a little bit slower to respond. And as you stated before, it's a little bit slower, but I at least like to see the ball rolling. And I know I'm inviting you to amend it. I'm not asking you to, but I'm inviting you if you feel like, if this is a good thing, and you have some feedback, I'll certainly take your feedback along. Or if you want to put that feedback in front of the town meeting voters, again, I would be fully in favor of that.
Okay. Thanks. Katie, did you have something to say?
Oh, in the moment I did. It might not be I just feel that there are a number of us who are on this committee have small children, and we have made, the commitment to be here and to carve out that time. And I think that's important too, just to make that commitment. And yeah, it's convenient. And I have benefited many times from the conveniency, but with the cost associated with that, if we feel it's really important and we really want to be there, we can do that. And not everyone, maybe that's a privileged thing to say. And I acknowledge that. But also those important meetings that there's controversy around and social media posts. And I have some good friends that have been attacked on some of those posts. So I feel I personally understand that those are rough. I feel those are the bigger meetings that are recorded for the most part. And some of those other meetings that might not be more attended, those aren't the sources of those social media posts, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
But, okay.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor is made and seconded to not recommend this article. Do we have any further discussion from committee members?
Can I just ask a question?
Certainly.
Since this is the first one that has been motioned to not recommend.
Mhm.
So is a yes vote agreeing not to recommend it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep, it
I
goes
want to
by
make
the
sure I
motion.
vote the way I
Yep,
intend.
absolutely. No, certainly.
Thank you.
That's very important. All right, then I will do a roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
Jillian,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Thank you very much. And Jillian, you think you're pretty good on comments for that one?
I've written it if you want me to say it. Or I can email it to you so then you can bring it up on screen.
Yeah, why don't you email it?
Sure. To the Gmail one or the town hall one or
FinCom's fine. FinCom email is fine, or
sure.
both.
Although, can I just suggest, I'm not
Yep.
sure where we're at time-wise and what people are expecting, how long we're expecting to
Right.
go. I would have some interest in trying to get through the citizens petitions tonight,
Okay.
just because Mr. Stone is here and, you know, it's
Mhm.
on the discussion, and if we have to hammer out our comments at the next meeting, that might make some sense. In one person's opinion.
Nope, that's absolutely
I
fine.
agree.
Let me, but thank you, Jill. I got that and I will put it onto our document and let me share. The next one, citizens petition, AA. On screen. So this one is appropriate to the schools an additional $120,000. And we do have comments that I can bring up because it's a very simple and small article itself. Sorry, I thought I had his.
Hey, Ken, did you write those comments?
Which one's that on AA?
About out of district, the cost of out of district costs growing too high, too quickly.
Considering how smart and experienced Ken is, I guess a glowing compliment. Thank you, Pete.
Okay.
All right. Are we doing discussion then?
Yeah, control AA. Begin.
So, yeah, I got to say, I'm pretty torn. I don't know where I'm going to come down on this. I certainly appreciate some of the comments we've seen that people talk about, you know, this being out of the budget process, that we have a budget process and just winging in at the last minute creates, you know, unanticipated problems. And, you know, generally, I guess, is not something to be encouraged. But, you know, the flip side is, I mean, it's supposed to be a decision we make at town meeting, at the legislative branch. And it is perfectly appropriate that the budget gets amended by the legislative branch. It's not just that we should take an up or down vote on what is presented by the executive branch. And, you know, people having direct input into the budget is, you know, the core of our democracy. So, you know, as a little bit broader, although I, you know, maybe for another meeting, is in my charter review responsibilities. I'm even torn by the idea, you know, should a citizen's petition have to identify the funding source? And, you know, I recognize it doesn't right now in the charter, and is that a flaw in the charter? But part of me would say, you know, maybe it is that the legislative branch can say, no, we want more money to the schools. And you professional government people figure out the best place to take it from, but that we as the legislative branch have the right to say, you know, we want to spend more money on the schools. That's a perfectly valid thing. as much as a wrench as it throws in our budget process right now. But I'm not sure we should be, designing a budget process that's, for the convenience of the administrative people doing it. And so, yeah, I'm very torn on this one, I have to say. And those are some of the things I'm considering. So I guess I'll stop there.
So I find myself agreeing with Peter on this one. I am perhaps a hair bit more concerned about the idea of this being done out of the budget process and about what disarray that this might create. So one of the things I come away with is what the source of the amount, where that came from. Is that in the article or the sponsored comments?
That amount was so Ken, that amount was attributable to the revenue lost. That's what the superintendent, it was a little bit over 120,000, but I made a nice round number for make it easy people to understand. But that is what the superintendent testified to, was the revenue lost due to the COVID pandemic from renting out the school buildings to outside groups.
And just as a for instance for people, it's, like they didn't do College Gate. I think College Gate is one of those big money makers for the school.
Well, so the reason why I was asking that is, I mean, to me, 120 would hardly seem to even, address the larger shortage in the school budget, the MPS budget.
Well, and
Okay.
if it was COVID related, was that money that we got reimbursed for at all, or grants?
No,
or-
this
No,
would have been,
Okay,
this would have been for, this would have been for the loss of revenue from renting out to other groups. And I don't think that is something that you can get reimbursed for.
Well, someone can, if they know this to be, so my understanding is we could have used some of the federal funding for this. We chose not to. So this would have been something that the school, and I believe the schools did apply for it, and we're told it wasn't available.
Well, Natasha's
that
given a
we
thumbs
Natasha
up.
gave a
spend
thumbs
the
up,
CARES
yeah.
money elsewhere. Sorry, Ken, I didn't hear you, or Katie. I didn't hear
Natasha
you.
gave a thumbs up, so she was agreeing with what you're saying. I did not realize that we could use it to replace lost revenues.
Just to add, yeah, it was the ARPA funds. So we had sought, ARPA funds could be used for lost revenue attributed to COVID. And so that was, I'm guessing that's the root of, those were some of the discussions that were talked about. And Peter, you're correct. College Gate was the primary source of revenue because it funded the revolving account for maintenance that the schools have used reliably. And so we've had to expend more out of the operating budget.
And how does that connect then to the fact that this money is going to help with out of district costs?
I'm not part of the article, neither is the school committee.
So I
can't-
can address that, Ken. So town meeting cannot tell the schools how to spend the money. What we have to do is essentially we have to trust that the school committee has the right plan. Trust, I guess, in the terms of Reagan, trust but verify. The school committee detailed their plan specifically to address the out of district expenditures, the creation of the Tiger program, and maybe Natasha can do a refresher on that budget proposal. But there was a comprehensive plan that specifically targeted trying to appeal to parents to keep their kids in district. either by providing services. I believe the Tiger program was to address outplacement due to autism. There are also numerous other projects the school committee has detailed that's trying to make the schools more appealing to parents. Because right now, as it stands, our out of district placement rate is twice the state average. We're at around 10% out of district placement, and the state average is about 5%. Not only that, but the out of district costs have been growing exponentially over the past decade, and they've been growing exponentially at a rate of 13.5%. That is well in excess of the 2.5% total town budget increase allowed by Proposition 2.5. And if we don't do anything about this out of district placement, come 2030, the out of district expenditures is going to grow so fast that our total town budget is going to see a year-over-year increase of over 2.5%. And I would also point out that the out of district costs are non-discretionary. They are legally mandated by Massachusetts general law and driven by parent choice. So the only means we as a town have at our disposal to try to contain these costs is to make our in-district schools more appealing than our out-of-district option, than parents' out-of-district options.
And those, is it charter schools that are based on our spending per pupil in town?
So that was based on the ClearGov numbers. So ClearGov provides the cost per out-of-district student, which was roughly $50,000, a little bit over $50,000, and our in-district cost per in-district student is around $20,000. So the
Oh, I'm sorry. When
out-of-district
you're
cost-
talking are you talking sped out of district or people that
Total out-
choose to go
total-
to charter
total
school?
out of district. So the ClearGov numbers aggregates both. It doesn't allow me to drill down. So this is, let me actually get the definition, the actual definition. It's also in my sponsor comments as well, right at the beginning. So out of district costs, as reported by ClearGov, and I quoted this exactly out of ClearGov, represents our town's total expenditures for students in charter schools, school choice, and out of district placements.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So. Mhm. I guess I will just touch on the fact that we had, and I forwarded to you all today, if you saw a email from Ellen Duggan, who wanted us to not recommend this. So she's not here, but just wanted to make sure that that was said. And that, of course, and earlier we had Linda, who is here and very interested in this. She is concerned for the precedent. Should we recommend this? Natasha, can you, was it 120 that was asked for ARPA? Was that the number you guys gave for lost revenue when you
So,
did?
When we talked, and I again, I just want to clarify, I don't have the information exact in front of me because I wasn't prepared to speak in detail on this. So the College Gate specifically, that program was about 30,000 a summer. And so in speaking in the school budget subcommittee meeting, Wayne and Brian, they took an averaged approach versus the exact approach. So the averaged approach lessened the amount that was submitted, which was actually 50. I think in the spirit of, trying to not ask for.
It was, what was it that was asked of the select board? It was 58?
50, it was 50, maybe 52 or something around there, but it was less than 60, more than 50.
Okay.
And that was, the conversation was, that was not recommended.
Right, for ARPA.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Just wanted to
But
remember
I
what.
guess it will be revisited though at some point, depending on the
Yes.
bid. That was the other pin that was put into it, that depending on the DPW bids that came in.
Mhm.
So I think we have a lot to think about on this one.
Yeah.
I should say too, I'm still waiting to hear back from Greg. We had some further at our last meeting when he was here, we had some questions for town council on, I think, order and what this would mean in order to balance the budget in town, at town meeting itself. And I have not heard back from him.
I think Peter's comments were compelling, and, I think at a minimum, we ought to defer this to the next meeting.
Mhm.
Hopefully some of those questions will be answered, and, we can talk a little bit more about, about the impact on this. I think Peter brings up a really good point. I think many of us
Wait,
are.
which one?
I think one, that I think many of us are dissatisfied with the level of funding for the the Maynard Public Schools. And I think you're right that, this is this is a way of pushing them to take a look at things. So I think I'm trying to balance the fact that there's so many moving parts in this. Obviously, there isn't a lot of support for even a Prop 2.5 discussion, to say nothing about a vote. We're not even willing to have a discussion about the priorities beyond what happens in select board, FinCom, and school committee meetings. And I realize that, to some extent, that reluctance is due to, a very reasonable hesitation to, put additional burden on taxpayers. On the other hand, 2.5% costs go up more than 2.5%. And this is something that I know we've been talking about since I was on school committee many years ago, close almost to, 9 or 10 years ago now. And so this is not going away and only exacerbates. And so, I think, Peter, maybe you're right. This is, this is a way of to provoke the discussion about, where where taxpayer money is going to go. I think a more orderly process would be good, where we were, talking specifics about raising additional revenues and where those revenues would go, but barring a decision to do that, then maybe this is the way to do it. But I'd like to understand, what impact the 120 is going to have. I'd like to understand if this is in fact, very much in order. And, so to me, I think we can defer it either to the next meeting, or even, even if it misses the printed warrant, this is important enough for it to go forward. So.
Yeah, I am very concerned with the what this would do at town meeting, and how this would be addressed if it were to pass. And
How so? When you say that,
where this, so if this passes, we need a balanced budget. So where's the 100, where is this coming from? And then at what, if it's coming from, certain accounts, like something like okay, well, I guess we'll pull it from stabilization, because where else can we? That would need another article. It would, the whole, how is this going to move forward if it is approved, that process? And, my thought is on things like that stabilization, is not for operational cost. It was at best is a Band-Aid. And we're going to be back here probably again. And my other thought is, we are giving, in terms of maintenance, which is one of the things that was hit with this loss of revenue, our free cash appropriation is giving over 100, I forget what it is exactly, I have to go look at it, 110 or something for specific maintenance for schools, that we took $1 million out of stabilization for schools for the MSBA study just last year already, that we have been doing a lot of due diligence in terms of looking at comparables, in terms of seeing what it is we are spending per pupil, none of which has come back shockingly low. Our spending per pupil is pretty on par. I'm certainly concerned about sped costs. I think that is something that really needs to be addressed. In my mind, the only way to really help all of our school systems is for that to come from higher up, and get more relief from the state, because I think that is astronomical, and it's nobody's, it's something we absolutely have no control over, other than certain programs we can put in place to keep some of our kids in district. I understand that from a programming standpoint, but I'm thinking more in terms of the particularly expensive students that just, they have needs, and it's nobody's, it's nobody's fault. It's nobody doing anything wrong. We could have a student move in tomorrow that is going to cost us, I hate, to say that in that way, it sounds vulgar, but $100,000. I mean, 100%. And we would have, you got to do what you got to do. Those are, that is an issue for sure. That does trouble me with the system, the way that it is. But in general, yeah, I'm not in favor of this article.
Yeah,
I think I'll leave it at that.
I would kind of echo that. I think we do budget iterations. So, I don't want this to set a precedent, and I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with the final number the schools got, but, we're on the town. It's like a very difficult economy right now. And we have to make decisions as a town. So, I understand if this is the way that the citizens would like to express that, but I think it's irresponsible to do the budget in this manner. I feel like it might set a precedence where someone's like, well, the budget that you said, I don't like it, so I'm going to make an article, a citizens petition article, and every year we'll have like 5 of these. And citizens are free to do their petitions. But I feel like that there is a process, and I have some questions, I guess, about how late this was potentially released, and why this didn't make more of a splash in the normal process, which is, I found confusing this year.
Can I respond?
Can I speak
Let
first?
the committee
Kevin?
speak,
Sorry.
please, Kevin.
All right.
No, but I just want to note, to Jillian's point, I agree stuff like this comes up late, but in fairness to the school process, I mean, the schools were operating under I don't know, an understanding, or they had a number that they were operating under, you know, that really was there until, you know, mid-January. Then all of a sudden the number was about $400,000 lower than they had been told. So that may be an issue with our budget process we need to address. But I feel the schools got that lower number very late in the process. And, you know, all through the fall, we were kind of, you know, the schools didn't come in with a 7-8% request, which they often do. You know, I think they had a representation from the town that, you know, they would be at their traditional 4%, and the school said, okay, we can deal with that, and they built their budget around that. And then, to my mind, very late in the process, that we couldn't sustain it. And I get it. It's a really bad year for the town. There's a whole bunch of revenue cuts. I don't mean to, you know, blame the town side. It is a very difficult year budget-wise for a number of reasons. But I still think that change to the school budget was also very late in the process. So just wanted to mention that, Jillian, on the lateness of this coming up.
Yep, I appreciate that. And that was sort of one of my questions, because I recall that it wasn't necessarily this number the whole process. So I was just kind of trying to figure out when that happened and why.
Danielle, Katie, any thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of keep going back and forth. I don't disagree that our schools could absolutely use additional funding, but I do think it's a complicated thing to carry out if this were to pass.
Yeah, same, Danielle. And there's not a plan on where that's coming from and the process of that. And I think there's a lot of unknown to the consequences of it, and that'd be hard to vote on.
Kevin, quick
Well,
response, please, because we're after
So,
9.
so if I could just jump in
Oh,
first. I
go
mean,
ahead, Ken.
I just, you know, I go back to this idea that Peter put forward, that this may be in fact a function of our recommendation that we put it forward. And, you know, if town meeting voters voted down, then they voted down. And if they voted forward, then then they do so with the knowledge that, you know, that's going to have to come from some other source. So I don't know, I found it quite compelling.
Kevin, go ahead.
You're muted, Kevin.
You're muted.
Sorry, 2 points. First, I have gone through the process. I have been lobbying the select board for months now to increase the school funding without a satisfactory response on their part. And the points that I raise are very valid. I point to you again that come 2030, even if we freeze all the other spending, this out of district costs are going to grow to the point that we're going to have to do an override, and we're not going to have a choice in the matter. Second point is I'm going to quote from the Massachusetts Selectmen Handbook by the Massachusetts Municipal Association.
Is it the one that's in your?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just going to quote
it.
directly.
Yep, you don't need
Nevertheless,
to read
budgets. Okay, I'm going to refer you directly to that quote.
Yep.
You can do a budget with a higher level appropriation that's supported by estimated revenues that can be in place by the start of the fiscal year. There are numerous options to address it. You can call a special town meeting to amend the budget. You can call the select board can call an override. We could do a reserve fund transfer. We could do a free cash transfer. There are numerous options. And this article specifically calls out the COVID revenues because that qualifies that for stabilization / reserve funds. It very clearly qualifies because COVID is an emergency and unforeseen revenue loss.
Okay, thanks. Any other thoughts on this before we move on? Table the vote for next time. Hi, Linda. Go ahead.
Are you allowing public I don't want to hold anyone up.
Yeah,
I
no,
just,
go ahead,
thank-
not,
thank you.
not
I
10
appreciate
minutes,
it.
but
I'm not as in-depth as some of the folks on this call, maybe with the budget. One thing that stood out to me during I forget what you call it, but the budget hearing in February, I think it was that the schools have chosen to make or create 8 new hires. That's a significant amount of money, and sometimes you need to make choices. So it's unclear to me how retaining students is connected to, for instance, the full-time athletic director. I feel strongly about it. I need to put that out there to you guys. I hope Natasha is still listening. It's really disturbing to me that we're looking at other things, and that, there's a conversation that continually starts off saying that the schools are being, that the budget is being cut, and that is just, the language is so wrong. It's really upsetting to hear that. It's not being cut. It may not be funded to the full extent that the school department wishes, but it has been a tough year. There have been cuts made by everybody. People are reducing things all around. And I just find it hard to believe that talking about retention, which we've been talking about for 10 years at least, there are some of those hires that I don't see where they make a connection and that they will retain. And even if you do put these things in place, there's no guaranteeing that it's going to retain anybody, to the point that was made earlier. So thank you very much. But I feel strongly that this is not the way to do it.
thanks, Linda. Okay. Any other committee comments before we get to the
BB,
next? Yes. All right. Here we go.
thank
And
goodness
again,
we're ending on a non-controversial one.
it's the way we like it. The later it gets, the more fun. All right, let me share this. All right, BB. And as I had said, there was a typo. I think Peter had caught it, or somebody had mentioned one of the numbers was off. That has been fixed. So all the 22 million numbers do match, in fact, and should have.
So, I mean, to my mind, this is the same discussion that we just had. I don't know if we want to
It is
do
very
the same
similar.
discussion again.
Correct. It is very similar.
It's just to a much greater degree. So my
Right.
understanding is this is, the other one was about 120,000. This is somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000 to 500,000.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I can't find the other thing to give that number exactly, but
Yeah, sorry, I should have had that.
so it's, far
I'll make sure
larger.
we know that. Whoa. What my screen is doing. We'll get that number specifically so we can put it in our comments regardless. It's important to know.
So basically, if I understand this one correctly, it's basically saying that the town would appropriate to the schools, in addition to whatever appropriation is there,
Yes,
enough to make it whole up to the 22 million, 28, almost 29.
correct.
Okay.
And sorry, I didn't get a chance to read the
Do
comments
we-
for this article. Is that to bring it up to the 4% increase? Like, where does that number come from exactly?
I believe it was what they had asked for in their budget proposal. The number they had asked for from the fall.
And so do
Okay,
we,
thanks.
Yeah.
do we have the figure? I don't have it right in front of me, but do we have the figure of what the current going in for Control D, what the figure is for the Maynard Public Schools?
Let me find that. Here we go. That number. It's just the one education, the line education dash Maynard, correct? Not education Maynard
Correct.
and education aspect. Okay.
No.
21,666,408.
So that's 363, looks like.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any specific discussion or questions that committee members would like answered before the next meeting with concerns to this article? Since we did just kind of have a general discussion about sort of the I guess the methodology behind it, but this is a different number. But is there anything you would like me to be sure I can come back with?
I think the only question I would have for the town would be what the order of the articles would be, or maybe it's the town, the moderator,
Right.
what the articles would be, because if these get voted, does that automatically make the current budget article defunct and that would have to be amended on the floor?
Right.
Just, I think understanding the process would be really helpful.
Yep.
And if we have to amend to have a budget on the floor, or if it can come back as a town meeting, a special town meeting, or.
Right.
Well, and making sure not only that we understand, but that town meeting voters understand.
Right.
The impact, because you could,
Justine, go ahead.
I just had one question, and it's more something just for FinCom members to think about. And I do completely understand that you've made it extremely clear that that there are some that feel that the schools need more money. I was part of the conversations during the feasibility study last year or the year before, where the Finance Committee was absolutely it felt like the Finance Committee was against us taking out money from the stabilization funds to fund that, wanted to put it as a debt exclusion on the taxpayers. And I know that we fought to take it out of the stabilization because we did not want to put any more burden on the taxpayers. So my question, especially when you add both of these together of about $500,000, just south of $500,000, where would this money come from and what services would be affected? The general government budget only went up less than $300,000. So if we amended the budget for the town government, none of the town employees would get raises and there would be cuts. So, and we could take it out of stabilization. And again, we'll probably discuss this tomorrow night at our meeting, but it's just something that, I'm just hoping the Finance Committee thinks about the fact that before recommending something like this, that, there's not a lot of places for that money to come from.
I think Justine makes a great point.
Very good point.
I mean, so, I think part of the issue here, I mean, Justine makes a great point. I think part of the issue here is helping town meeting voters to understand that, voting something like this in, no matter how appealing that it might seem, without additional revenues is going to be devastating to other parts of the town budget.
All right. Any other points of discussion on this before we bring it back next week? No? Okay. All right, I think we have gone through all of the articles. We have a few left to vote on and make our recommendations on, but we have, I think, done a very good job at our due diligence here, and we're well on our way to being prepared for annual town meeting. Thank you, everybody, for all of your thoughts and discussions and all of the efforts that you have put in. And I think with that, we can just do a little bit of housekeeping with some minutes and get us to bed. Get us out of here.
I didn't send last week's minutes, but we will have that.
That's
for our
all right.
next meeting.
That's, yep. What we got we have a few to catch up on anyway, so that's fine. Let's just do the ones we have. We'll do a little catch up and then we'll be good to go. So I'm gonna just pull up, this is March 14th minutes, which were sent. And I will entertain a motion, or we can do discussion first. This was our meeting with Justin and didn't we have someone else? Chief Noble, yes, that was it. Oh, and the Preservation Committee. I mean, Community Preservation Committee.
You go down to the bottom, please.
Sure thing. Do I make it a little bigger? It's kind of small. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for March 14th FinCom meeting.
All right, do we have a second?
I will second the
Peter
motion.
seconds.
Peter's on it. Peter's good.
You're the secretary, whichever one you want to put in there. We'll go for it.
Peter's good.
All right, we got Peter seconded. Any further discussion? All right, then we'll do a roll call vote to accept. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Moving on, we had the tri-board meeting, March 22nd.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the March 22nd tri-board meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will officially second the
All
motion
right.
to accept the minutes.
Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Danielle,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yep.
Katie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. And then, did we have one other, or is that what we have? And then next? No, we had three. No, you said you didn't send 328 yet. Okay, so that's what we have for now,
Yes.
and we're good, and we'll be caught up once. We'll do two sets next time, and then we're good to go. Excellent. Okay, my only chair comment is please get your no, I can't think of it, to Joanna, to
Draft
the town
ordinance?
clerk. Sorry, what?
I thought you were
No.
gonna say draft code.
Ethics training.
The ethics yeah, you by April 8th, you need to send Joanna that you have received the
Certificate?
the conflict of interest. And then you have to do the ethics training. But I think it's by the 8th she needs your signed conflict of that you've received the conflict of interest information. And then there was the ethics training. I sent it to you in an email. So y'all just go back and read that. Make sure you get that to her because that's a law. Got to do it. Okay. And I think that's it for me. Do any other members have member comments?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to throw in that I think we have a lot of articles that may require more thought, more research on before we vote. And I don't want us to be in a rush to vote when, you know, what we're essentially trying to do is make the deadline for a printed warrant. And it's perfectly fine for us to do these votes later. We'll have opportunities to share that, we can still share the recommendations later. We can put them on the FinCom, website. We can share them during our public hearing. So I'm not saying we shouldn't vote on these. I'm just saying I don't think there's any rush for us to vote. So.
Yeah, I would agree as long as we, there are things that can, if we're still looking for information or there's more things that we need to do ahead. But if it's a tough decision, I don't know that that's good enough to wait. You know what I'm saying? But if it's the type of thing where we need some more time to do some more research, to ask some more questions, to get some more feedback, then absolutely.
So I tell you, I'm quite uncomfortable with this idea of AA and BB making a recommendation without understanding what the process would be to bring the town budget into balance.
Agreed.
And that I think is, the main thing is, I think, whether you think this is laudable and we ought to do it, or, think we shouldn't do it, we ought to have a clear understanding to be able to explain to town meeting voters, if you vote this in, this is what's going to happen. If you don't vote this in, this is what's going to happen. And
yeah.
I don't feel like we're there yet. So
I agreed. Any other committee comments before we adjourn?
I sent you the notes that I took for all of the citizens petitions articles so they could be incorporated for our future discussion.
Thank you very much.
do you need any extra hands on that? Or you good, Jill?
Have been written.
She's good. She's on it.
We can, you could circulate them before the meeting in case anyone else wants to write their own. I sort of took bullet point notes. So it's not in the final form.
Sure. Yep. I will in fact send that around. Thank you.
Natasha has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Natasha.
I just had a question about when you all get citizens' comments in written form, do those get added to correspondence for similar to how the select board handles them at a future meeting to see, or if they're not read out and in their entirety? I didn't realize, I don't know how you normally operate with that regard, if they're in writing versus verbal.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all that often. I believe I have put them on board docs before for a meeting. If Ken and Peter, if you have thoughts on the legal process there.
So we've gotten comments before, and if certainly we tend to offer opportunities for people to chime in during the meetings. And so if there are sort of targeted comments during meetings, then we can certainly do that. if somebody's writing something in that's more substantive, I think what we've typically done, and I think what Alana did with Linda's comments, is share that with the committee so that we can do it, so we can review it in preparation for a vote. Since we're not voting on these, this week, then we'll have a chance to consider them as we prepare for a vote next time.
Yeah,
But I guess
I'm
the question
guessing
is,
Natasha's point is that they need to be part of the public record. So
Right.
it would either be they need to get put on board docs, or I mean, I think once in a while, in the era before board docs, we would have meant just append them to the minutes.
Mhm.
The other option.
And that's what the school committee
But
does, so I didn't know if that would be a similar process where
Yeah,
we.
But
we
either
add them
way,
to
I
minutes.
think they need to be officially available.
okay,
So Linda knows when she's.
Yeah, I think we've tended to append them to the, I think we've tended to append them to the minutes.
So is that a paste and copy thing and I attach them to the minutes?
It's
Um,
attach.
we,
Well, I guess
yeah,
it
we
doesn't
might
matter
do
then.
that when we put them on the website, on our website, or what we often say is any documents pertaining to this meeting are available on board docs, and then we put them there. So I will make sure to do that. Okay. Anything else from any other committee members? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The next budget
All right.
meeting
Oh.
has moved. The budget subcommittee meeting is next week. And it's on Thursday instead of Wednesday, so it's on the 14th.
But by the way, I have it on good authority that relative to that irrigation thing, the irrigation matter that we were talking
Oh,
about,
yeah.
the CPC,
Mhm.
is that, that is, that money would be rerouted to a study, and that there would be more money that would need to be appropriated.
Ah,
So,
thank you for that
Yeah.
answer.
so
I like the cross committee action in your household. It's very helpful. All right, so we had a motion to adjourn. Was it seconded? Peter moved.
I will second the motion to adjourn.
All right. Roll
How
call.
long are we gonna go?
Danielle,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Ken,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Jillian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Until next week, everybody, thank you so much for all of your work. See you next Monday.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, guys.